How's it going, man?
All right, how are you?
I'm good. So, yeah, thanks for taking time to do this, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure thing. Happy to talk.
Yeah, yeah. So, I guess while it's fresh in my mind, I had looked at the Arnold stats this year, and that's where I came across your name. And I was there, but trying to keep track of names and people while I'm watching the competitions and some of the wild names that I come across out there, it's a challenge.
Yeah, I bet. The
But
Arnold is sensory overload is
yes,
is
yes,
a
for
word that
sure.
comes to mind for the Arnold.
Yeah, for sure. So, like, what was it like, man?
Um, well, I think I had good performances in some events. Really, the one event where I was expecting to do the best is where I did not, and that cost me big time. But yeah, it was pretty much a mid pack finish this time around. So I've spanned kind of the spectrum of Arnold in terms of placing. Where my first time around was actually my best, where I got on the podium and finished second.
Yeah.
And my second time, I was maybe mid bottom pack, ninth, and then seventh this year. So fluctuations happen with
Yeah.
different events and different lineups, and that's the sport. That's why it's interesting. It's not done on paper. It's done on the field.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So third year. So, I have to assume you do other strongman competitions too. Is that accurate?
For sure. So I've also done three OSGs, and I'm getting ready to do the next big comp in my schedule. Here is the Pro Strongman League 80
Wow.
kg championship. I'm set to do that for my first time this year. I was on track to do it last year for the first time, but I got sort of my first semi-significant injury that forced me to pull out of that. I should say first in strongman. I was injured a lot in my previous athletic pursuits, but
Sure.
yeah. So unfortunately, I was able to sort of carry over my invite from last year to this year, and I'm super excited. Having just watched the 105 and 82 women this past weekend in Virginia Beach for PSL, I'm very excited to get in on that action.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, absolutely. So how did you hurt yourself? What'd you hurt?
I had a partial bicep tear prepping for a max axle clean and press.
Oh,
It was there were some conflicting opinions initially on how severe it was. Fortunately, enough of the experts told me that this was sub surgery level. Um, Even though the initial MRI report may have suggested, it's dicey when it comes to biceps. Really, what they do is they determine if more than 50% of the fibers are torn, it's surgery. If it's less than 50%, don't get surgery. So
man.
it's like, but they'll never tell you exactly what percentage of the fibers are in fact torn. So
Right.
there's some gray area in there. But fortunately, uh, I got the advice that was the correct advice because I came back quickly enough. It took me about 4 months, 4 to 5 months to go from injury to being in competition shape again.
Wow.
But yeah, for the first month and a half, I was not in the best place mentally because like
Sure.
basic tasks were giving me severe problems. But once I kind of got into the rehab protocol, things came around. So surgery would have been a much longer road back, although biceps are fairly simple. Anytime you can avoid surgery, you would like to avoid surgery because things can go wrong. But yeah, so that was my last year. Bit of a roller coaster, up
Yeah.
down. So now I'm hoping to catch some highs coming up.
Yeah, it kind of comes with the territory, I guess.
Definitely.
So, what does that therapy look like? How do you go from torn or partially torn bicep, which is basically meat off the bone, to 4 months later, I can actually lift and not only lift, compete. What does that look like?
Yeah, so it starts out once you have range of motion back, and I'm not a physical therapy expert, but I've done enough rehabs, and as a strength coach, I'm dangerous enough with the knowledge to be able to speak a little bit on it. But once range of motion is back, you're pretty much clear to start low load resistance training, and it's pretty basic for the first chunk of rehab. It's but the elbow does flexion and extension, the bicep does the flexion, so it's just loaded bicep curls starting very light for high reps, mixing in some eccentric dominant work, some isometric dominant work, and then once the strength, I guess I would mention the key part of the rehab when it comes to metrics is having a quantifiable sense for how differences left to right.
Yeah.
in the affected limb versus the unaffected limb. I did use some isometric what's the term, like an isometric load cell
Yeah.
to do some max effort curls every so often, just to continuously gauge what percentage of my strong arm my weak arm was outputting. Once you get to 85% of strength left to right, you're kind of clear to start more event specific high velocity movements, still within a very conservative loading scheme.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's pretty simple bodybuilderish in the beginning. Once you get to 85% strength, you're clear to kind of start returning to sport, just doing so gradually. And then
Yeah.
uh, I'd like to say I did it gradually, but I also had qualifying opportunities that I had to hit to get
Sure.
to stay on the track that I wanted to be on. So you don't want to force timelines when it comes to coming back from injury. But at the same time, sometimes the timelines are forced upon us. So
Yeah.
luckily, it all worked out for me. But I did learn a lot.
Yeah, no, well, I'm glad to hear that. So talk me through, I've been injured a couple times getting into lifting and just wanting to dabble in strength sports, which, I'm nowhere near your level. I'm nowhere near competition level. But when I get hurt, I tend to eat a lot more and sleep a lot more. So, I mean, what does that look like? Does it change, yeah, your recovery period? Do you eat more? Do you sleep more? Are you taking supplements? Like, what do you do when you're not exercising to rehab and I guess recover?
Um, I wouldn't say I tried to do anything differently because I'm already trying to eat and sleep optimally for
Yeah.
performance when I'm healthy. So I didn't. I tried to really keep the rest of my life the same, and just kind of transfer the training I was doing into rehab while all the while still training the rest of my body as normally as possible. Because that's we didn't talk. I didn't mention that, but that's probably one of the biggest parts of rehab is isolating the injured site as best as you can, but still treating the rest of your body as a functioning unit.
Yeah.
So I got very creative with ways to still train like a strongman even through the injury. With there's you see guys using straps for deadlifts where they
Hmm.
can don't have to put their arm on the bar. I used one of those car yoke straps to continue to train moving events. I had a front squat harness where I kind of trained uh, Zercher style extensions that sort of like log clean, sandbag load, stone loads. It's the same extension pattern, just removing the arm from that equation. So I really even explosive stuff. Like I got a little more into Highland Games throwing because I could just throw for height with my good arm, kind of just keeping this arm in a kind of in a sling
Right.
position. Single arm snatches, just still being an athlete while rehabbing the damaged part. So yeah, I trained very normally as one could train through an injury. But that was important mentally, but also physically. There is research that says training the injured side can accelerate the recovery of the opposite side. Um, Through the exact mechanism, I couldn't tell you really, but there's enough. I think there's enough research that says it is in fact the case.
Yeah,
But
I've
yeah,
seen studies
nothing
where
super
they
special with diet or sleep.
okay. Yeah, no, I've seen studies where they'll train like one arm or one leg and actually see hypertrophic stimulus in the other
Yeah,
limb, which
yeah. There's
is
probably some like neurological crossover
mhm,
that at play, but
yeah, very
yeah.
cool. So you manipulated that nicely. So going into, Strongman or Arnold Classic, and then how soon is your next competition then?
My next upcoming
Hmm.
one
Yeah.
is July 12th. So what are we, like 6 weeks, 7 weeks out from that?
Yeah.
If my math is right.
So how do you balance multiple shows like that, right? Because like I think you know, trying to get into lifting, trying to get stronger, I spend very minimal time maxing out, right? Like I'm not truly lifting for performance. I do a lot of hypertrophy training, and then that puts me in a position where I'm like, I want to be stronger, so I'm going to go push it on the bench. I'm going to go push my deadlift, but I don't spend a lot of time, in that max realm. So how do you balance like getting stronger, training, and then having multiple competitions where you really do have to give it your 100% like multiple times throughout the year?
Yeah, and I think the stronger you get, the better you get at the sport, the more cautious you have to be with how often you go to that place.
Sure.
And it's a little bit different for everyone. Some people like to compete more often, others not as much. So there's some individuality there, because also not every contest is the same. Some contests take a lot out of you. Some you could just treat kind of like a training day and
Yeah.
be fine. So the answer is it depends. Where I am in my kind of journey right now, I kind of want to focus on the major international contests, being Arnold, PSL, and OSG, and obviously doing well at those shows, or now in this on the Strongman Corporation side, having the pro card automatically qualifies you for life. So that was
That's crazy.
a big notch that I was able to get last year at America's Strongest Man. But because I've not yet been a finalist at OSG, I have to requalify every year for that. I'm actually kind of still waiting on whether or not my ASM podium qualified me for OSG, because initially they said it did, but now that tie is not necessarily there. So I'm kind of assuming I've qualified for OSG again, but I do have to verify that.
Wow.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so prior to this year, that was every time I got to OSG, I had to do a qualifier for OSG, and then it's sort of a snowball effect. The better you do, the more of an auto qualifying track record you build, and then you don't have to compete as much. So that really the goal. If I can do those big three every year, that's kind of where I'd like to be. But if I have to qualify for those shows, that has to be done as well.
Yeah. So, you get to get up there and you get to get in the mix with some pretty some pretty big names in the strongman community. What's that like?
Yeah, it's been very fun and rewarding to kind of get to know some of them on a more personal level. And every contest is like a little reunion, and maybe you pick up something new from them each time, or you just kind of become more personable with them. But there was that definitely the first year on the circuit, I was very tunnel vision, like I was almost afraid to branch out and do anything that would detract from my own performance. Where I would kind of just I would try to not be, I guess, starstruck by what was going on around me and just zero into my own performance. And not that I've loosened up on caring about my own performance, but you just get more comfortable at that level and you become more social. So that is a fun part of the sport, and being at that level is kind of socializing with the other guys who uh, you kind of share in the journey with, and it's a very cool part of the sport.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So you coach as well, right?
I do, yes.
So how do you mix coaching? And I mean, I worked in the gym for 5 years. I worked with trainers and it's chaos. And most of them had some other endeavor, whether it was strength or a lot of them it was bodybuilding. How do you balance a coaching business with all of this?
Yes. Well, so I guess I don't run a coaching business. I've been employed in the organizational setting as a strength coach. So prior, I guess my first job as a strength coach was the college sports setting, and that was pretty much right at the beginning of my strongman journey, where I had sort of transitioned from being a college baseball player to this new venture. And then I joined the military. I didn't know at the time that strength coaching would be a profession long term. It was sort of something that I was doing to pass the time. Um, and then sort of I got midway through my military career, and I was convinced I wanted to get back to strength coaching afterwards. So my first strength coaching job out of the Navy was back in college athletics. Um, and then I got a job with the military as a strength coach.
Wow.
Sort of a convergence of my
Yeah.
various experiences. So I did that, and now I sort of am in a middle ground where I'm employed by a university, but it's a partnership with a veteran based nonprofit where any veteran or family member of a veteran can train with me for free. Um,
Very cool.
out of ASU, Arizona State University. It's the home base veteran and family care nonprofit, a partnership between them. So yeah, it's honestly for my own training. It's also pretty ideal because I run my own facility that I also train out of, but I get to make a I don't know, a what feels like a pretty big difference in a lot of lives for these veterans. It's a very rewarding job. it just happens to support my own training very well
Yeah.
also. So it's a really nice setup that I currently have, and it's a good job and a rewarding one.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I appreciate your service. I mean, that's a huge deal. That's
Yeah,
very
I
cool.
appreciate your
Not,
support.
yeah, absolutely. Not many of us get to do things that matter. So that's really cool, man. No, I
Yeah.
love hearing that. So in the coaching, I mean, do you have any extremely strong, do you have any outliers? Do you have any people that you're training that, may potentially surpass you at some point? You ever run into that?
In my current role, I wouldn't say that's the case when it comes to like strength athletics. I have coached some individuals who have done some impressive like endurance based things and are trying to kind of branch into more strength related things. And I don't force strongman on any of my
Sure.
members, although I do believe loaded carries to be kind of a foundational human movement that is kind of neglected in traditional strength and conditioning. So I do incorporate loaded carries into pretty much everyone's training program in some way. Some of the members have kind of seen what I do and they're like, oh, can you show me how to do this? I want to do that. And I'm
Yeah.
happy to do that if it makes sense for them. Um, so I've not had the privilege to of my current members to train anyone like as a strongman, but I have kind of piqued some interest in it among them.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Well, good deal.
I should mention I have and do coach strongman sort of on the side in conjunction with my own coach runs a business, Rise and Defy Athletics. So I'm a coach under that
Okay.
umbrella as well. It's sort of a case by case basis whether I take someone to coach remotely. It's not the majority of the coaching that I do, but that is something that I have done and will do as well.
Yeah. No, very cool. Have you had the chance, at this point, sponsorships? Have you gotten to mix it up with companies? Had any conversations like that?
Yes, I've been extremely fortunate, and I almost like feel like I've kind of hit the lottery when it comes to sponsorships because I've reached out. I've been very proactive in just in trying to get
Yeah.
sponsors, and I've sort of tried to go a different route than maybe the majority of strongman athletes because you see uh, kind of the typical players, supplement companies, equipment brands. I've not really targeted those. My strategy has kind of been to look at what are the things that I already buy
Yes.
that support my performance, um, and really for me that's been food
Yeah.
and coffee. So really the first sponsorship I got was I really just struck gold with it. It was kind of the perfect partnership. Alaska Gold Seafood.
Okay.
I had been buying from them for years, pretty much throughout my whole strongman career. I was getting my fish in bulk delivered to me throughout the Navy, all the various locations that I was in. I would get the food delivered. Um, I actually my first strength coaching job I took was up in Alaska. I kind of just
Wow.
had it in my mind to reach out to them to see if we could have a partnership relationship or sponsorship relationship. And just as it happened, they had kind of been interested in that strength athletics audience for a while. They actually had a booth at the Arnold years ago.
Oh, wow.
So when I proposed it to them, it was not at all a foreign concept. Which in my mind, like I sent the email, I had no idea how they would respond to it, but they responded extremely positively. And once you get one sponsorship, it kind of creates a level of credibility when you then go to try to get others because they've already seen like, oh, this person is already this other company already sees value in this person in this relationship, so maybe they'll take it more seriously. So I'm sponsored by Alaska Gold Seafood. The second sponsor I was able to get was a coffee company that is it's called Old Salt Coffee.
Okay.
It's sort of Navy themed. It's veteran owned and operated by
Good.
Navy sailors. They have various blends, and each different roast that they have is sort of dedicated to a different aspect of the naval warfare community. So there's
Uh,
special warfare, aviation, surface warfare, and it's great coffee. They have a lot of partnerships with nonprofit military based charities that they donate a lot of their proceeds to. and that's another great partnership. And most recently, I was able to get a meat sponsorship with
Cool.
Frontier Natural Meats.
Okay.
So yeah, so meat in my mind, I've hit the lottery. Every year, I've been able to pick up a new one, and really, it's just a testament to knowing how to write an email and kind of
Yeah.
setting the right target. Because my strategy has more or less been to look at companies that are big enough to ship nationally, but small enough to maybe they don't have the biggest marketing presence. So where someone like me could sort of actually provide value from a marketing standpoint to them.
Yeah.
And it's worked. I mean, I've definitely got a lot of no's and a lot of no replies, but yeah, I don't know that I'm like the model for sponsorships, but I do think I've had a disproportionate amount of success in getting them relative to my actual strongman success. And I don't want to be someone whose bark is louder than their bite. But really, I've just been strategic and kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Refined my emailing process to have some success with it.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And man, that's something that, I think people would really benefit from knowing. So not only, strong men and strength athletes, but in general, like learning how to not not be so worried to hear no and learning
Yeah.
how to just go after things that you want.
Yeah. And there's nothing to lose with if they say no, they say no, and you move on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
took you 5 minutes, right, to maybe overthink your email, maybe 10,
Haha,
and then you
yeah.
fire that
I have a
off.
high capacity for overthinking, so don't underestimate me
Yes.
there.
But, in this endeavor, you're looking at podcasting and wanting to talk to people, talk to athletes. There's few that I'm going to reach out to and already have where I get ghosted, or I'm going to get ghosted, or I'm going to hear no. And, I'm not reaching out to, you know, A-list celebrities, but I'm going to hear a lot of no just in this endeavor. So, that was actually one of the questions I was going to come in here and ask you was, recommendations on how strength athletes, how competitors, how they can get seen, how they can get noticed, how they can get to where they want to be. So, I mean, you really answered that question. So that's probably a good segue for me into the strength aspect and the actual performance aspect of you have somebody who, well, they want to get into this sport. Maybe they do want the sponsorships, maybe they do want the fame and fortune, whatever that is. Maybe they just want some cool free products that they're already, buying. But really what they want is to figure out how the heck do I go from a 250 pound deadlift to a 700-pound deadlift. So what's your thinking there? And you can package this up. I'm not, if this is something you make a living doing, I don't want you to, come out here and give your, entire arsenal for free. But what's your, 1,000-foot advice for somebody who's really trying to build strength and peak and build that performance?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you used that phrase, even the 1,000 foot view, because that really is my best answer. Is a lot of people, they come into the sport and they want to get to the top as fast as possible, and they're very narrow. But to me, the best way to get from that 250 to 700 is to zoom way out and look at it as a 10 to 15 year plan.
Okay,
And that's really what I did early in my career. Like I had this big whiteboard, and I it was a 10 year plan of like what numbers do I think would be competitive, to be where I want to be at kind of the big level shows. And I kind of mapped out. I mean, progress is not linear, so you should not expect to always be on a linear path to those numbers. But not that whiteboard was my exact roadmap to where I am now, but the idea that you need to look at it as a 10 to 15 year plan kind of is,
okay,
uh, from like a mental standpoint to avoid burning out, because you see it all the time. People come into the sport and they may even have a lot of potential and show like the ability to be a rising star. They'll have this meteoric rise, but then they'll burn out and fall off.
sure,
And it's sad to see, because if they had maybe just been a little been more comfortable with a slightly slower level of progress, then they could have gotten way higher by year 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up to 10. And I don't even know how long it is, because you don't know. There's no way of knowing like what your endpoint is, what your true potential is,
right,
until you make as many good decisions for as long a period of time as possible, and understand that it it's a long journey,
Yeah.
and you have to love the sport for what it is, and love the process of growth for what it is, more so than being fascinated by or obsessed with only the endpoint. You have to love the entire journey.
Yeah. You got to love progress
Yeah.
and love the process. So what I'm picking up from you too is, you mentioned making good decisions for as long as possible. So consistency. So consistently getting to the gym, consistently pushing yourself, consistently, let's go back to recovery, sleeping, eating, and actually living that lifestyle and doing it in a sustainable way so that you don't burn yourself out, don't hurt yourself. I mean, does that sum it up pretty well?
Yeah, absolutely. And even with the understanding that competing and health are different things. You need to be
Sure.
healthy to compete for a long time, but when you have decided that you're going to be competitive, there's a level of health that you are acknowledging you're compromising,
Right.
because injuries, when you're trying to find your limit, sometimes you don't know what it is until you pass it, and that's when injury happens. So like ideally in a perfect world, you always stay just beneath that threshold for injury your whole career and you never get hurt. But I would hazard a guess that every single person who has achieved something great in any athletic realm has probably been a little hurt at some point.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of not being totally discouraged by that and having enough resiliency to understand that you can come back, and you oftentimes learn lessons through rehab process that makes you better off in the long run. And that, I guess that was a lesson that I kind of took from my previous athletic career as a baseball player. I was hurt all the time, and I came back and I get hurt, and I come back and I get hurt, and that doesn't mean that I am the best at mentally dealing with injuries now. I told you earlier on, when I hurt my bicep last year, I definitely had a this is a catastrophe initial reaction, and I was in not the best place for a little bit, but I came back and I'm stronger than I was before. So now I know that if that happens again, I can do the same thing. But obviously, the goal is to not get hurt. That is the
Right.
number one thing that slows progress, is being consistently banged up. Um, but yeah, there's peaks and valleys in the 10 to 15 year career that ideally you have if you love the sport enough to be in it for that long. Um, so it comes with the territory.
Yeah. So, injuries. So that has me thinking about, you're on Instagram, obviously. I found you on Instagram, and that's where we've communicated. Do you get into TikTok at all, or is it mostly Instagram?
Yeah, I have not. I don't foresee getting into TikTok. I
You
don't
get
really
enough of it with
understand the difference
Instagram.
enough to do it. And uh, even like I'm on social media. Obviously, my sponsorships depend on social media. I don't have a ton of followers. Like I'm not. I would not at all classify myself as an influencer.
Sure.
Really, I'm just trying to document my journey.
Yeah.
One of my regrets from my baseball career is I didn't really have a lot of visual evidence of the cool things that I do. Is kind of they kind of just live as little movies in my mind.
Yeah.
So really, I just wanted to document my journey, and I've been super lucky to actually reap some type of actual tangible benefit from doing that in recent years.
Yeah. Well, you definitely get, so if you ever move into the TikTok space, man, it's chaos. So where I was going to go with this was there's this gym talk, so TikTok, but gym talk movement. And what I happen upon on there is some of the most insane injury promoting movements and exercises that I just they make me cringe to watch people doing this stuff. But what I do come across a lot of times is some of the legitimate influencers and folks that actually change my way of thinking, and that does happen pretty often. But so I'm wondering about is have you come across anything the last few years, whether it be Instagram influencers, that actually did change your way of thinking, your way of training, your approach to things? Any actual value you found out there?
Hmm.
And the answer might be no. I mean, that's
Yeah,
totally
I
fair
can't
too.
think of anything. Definitely in my very early days of strongman, really it was fueled by the YouTube channels of strongman competitors. I don't it's sort of not it's sort of I don't want to say died down, or maybe I just don't pay as much attention the more active I've become myself. But like the Brian Osru channel. I mean, I know Alan Thrall with Untamed Strength still has a robust channel, but like it's taken a bit less of a how to strongman feel to it. But my early days of strongman was consuming Alan Thrall, Brian Osru, Brian Shaw's YouTube channel. Martins Lisis used to have training videos up there all the time, and then obviously every World's Strongest Man from 1978 until now was used to be on YouTube. I think
Yep.
they went and they started taking them down from, I guess they were considered pirated content. But now World's Strongest Man has posted their own uploads of
Yep.
contests. So, but yeah, like my one of my first gym jobs I had before strength coaching per se, I was kind of supervising a university gym, and I worked these very early morning shifts, and I would just watch every single strongman contest there was to watch on YouTube
Oh
for
yeah.
hours on end, and then learning from the guys I mentioned, technical stuff. Yeah, well, recent years, I don't know. I maybe have paid less attention to kind of that stuff, but I mean, I'm always trying to strike the right balance of being on social media too much. Sometimes I feel like I am on there too much, but yeah, it's good to see what fellow athletes and competitors are doing because you can pick up things from
Yeah.
them. But it's important to not become obsessed about what other people are doing because that can negatively impact your own mindset or your own training. So it's always kind of trying to strike the right balance.
Yeah. Well, to your point about whether or not their content is still on YouTube. It's a lot of those guys, they retire and then they
Yeah.
don't really make strongman content. Like Eddie Hall, his content is like him driving little tanks around Britain or wherever he's at and, getting in fake fights with people in public and stuff. So it kind of deviates from actual strongman to YouTube content, just, whatever for views and likes. But I found a lot of value in, you mentioned Brian Shaw and his Shaw Strength channel. That's one that me and my son will sit down and watch his stuff. And my son gets real hooked on the outlier stuff, the grip strength, arm wrestling. My son is obsessed with arm wrestling now. So any little other thing that he sees Brian Shaw getting into, he just wants to be like that freak of nature that can go arm wrestle with the greats and all that stuff. So if nothing else, it's good influence. It's cool to get excited about that stuff. It definitely is.
For sure.
Let's see. I know we're coming up on time here. We got a few minutes left. All right. So July, next competition. What's the rest of your year look like? Do you have other competitions coming up, fall, winter, anything like that?
Yeah, so after Pro Strongman League in July, really OSG is the next one.
Right.
It's been sometimes in December, sometimes November. This year
Uh,
it's November. So yeah, once I'll be very interested to know the events when they come out. Once I can confirm that my qualification is in fact
Sure.
valid, I'm sure it is, but I have not gotten the official invite that I've seen going around. But yeah, I plan to be at OSG. It's in Texas this year. Really trying to achieve my goal of cracking the finals at
Yep.
OSG this year. I've not been able to do it yet. I think I can because that's really the top of the mountain at the moment. I think the other shows are big too. Arnold has kind of stepped up with becoming really a pro show.
Yeah.
PSL is an amazing show that the format for which I think I like the best in the sense that every show is the spotlight just on that single weight class, whereas these other shows, OSG and Arnold, it's everyone together. It's very easy to kind of get lost in the shuffle of how big the event is. Those smaller, more intimate shows are very cool. So yeah, every show is important. Like I value all of these majors pretty equally, but there's no denying that right now OSG has the most depth of talent there. So if you're a finalist at OSG, there is no doubt that you're among the best in the world.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, if you podium at Arnold or sorry Arnold or PSL, you're in that same conversation. I'm trying to kind of collect all the Infinity Stones in that regard.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hit the podium at PSL to kind of get that would be an Arnold and PSL podium if I can do that, and getting to top 10 at OSG would be the next huge deal for me.
Yeah. Well, I wish you luck, man. I'll be excited to see how it goes. Do you plan on, I don't know, getting any more of, I guess your actual competition content, like, you have anybody out there with an iPhone filming videos or anything like that. So when you're actually competing, you've got that log, that record that you're looking for.
Yeah, so fortunately, I mean the live streaming game has really been stepped up across the
Yeah.
board in Strongman.
Last couple of years for
So
sure.
yeah, recently you can kind of more or less rely on the stream to kind of provide that video footage. I may have some friends there in Baltimore for PSL to maybe get some more footage, but yeah, the more serious about competing I've gotten, the less I've been able to dedicate any sort of mental energy to making sure video is there.
Yep.
So the live streams have helped a lot because that has, like I said, with my baseball career, I regret not having the sort of visual memories of this, but in strongman, it's all recorded nowadays, so that's fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know we're coming up on time, so I do appreciate it. So remind me, so you're on Instagram. Are you anywhere else? Like, can I follow your content anywhere else?
I have done YouTube. All of the competitions I've ever done are on YouTube. I was also doing more sort of longer form training. I wouldn't call them vlogs because I'm not talking to the camera or anything.
Yeah.
But obviously Instagram, it's like little highlight clips of my training. Whereas on YouTube, I was doing more. This is all my training. It's a very small account. I've got like 30 to 35 subscribers, so it's
Yeah.
it's it's not huge. I've been a little bit lazy about posting those uh, training clips on YouTube of late, but yeah, all my contest videos are there, and I'll once I can get footage of the PSL, I'll put that there as well. Um, and I may be better about uploading my training content there, but for now, it's pretty much just Instagram.
Cool. Nope, well,
Yeah.
good stuff. Well, yeah, I'm excited to see what you do, man. It's inspiring. I appreciate your service, appreciate what you're doing. And yeah, I mean, any more exposure you can give to the sport is awesome. Any more exposure you can get for yourself is awesome. If I can aid in that and get you one more follower, I would love to be a part of that journey too. So if nothing else, I'm subscribed. I've got your Instagram. I'm gonna, be watching and definitely be out there to throw some encouragement your way, throw some prayers your way. So I hope you do well. I'm rooting for you. Again, I appreciate you taking the time, meeting with me today, talking through this. Thank you for not being one of the no's.